So Jaylen Moody, reserve linebacker for the Crimson Tide, has entered his name into the transfer portal, and we've got to talk about what this means because this was an individual that could have seen an increased role next year depending on the status of the current inside linebackers at the Crimson Tide. So we have got to break this down, but before we do, as always, y'all know the drill. I want to hear from you. Hop down into the comments, give me a Y for yes, N for no. Are you surprised that Jaylen Moody has entered his name into the transfer portal? And let me know what you're thinking. If you are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. Hit that bell notification. I do constant college football content. You don't want to miss any of it. And if you enjoy the content, be sure to like and comment down below. Those interactions, those small, are massive to content creators such as myself in both getting picked up and maintained by the YouTube algorithm. But with all of that being said, let's talk Jaylen Moody. And this one right here hurts a little bit because as a Crimson Tide fan, Jaylen Moody has always been a bit of a fan favorite, or at least I should say one of my favorites. And it's because whenever he talks, he's always talking about working and trying to earn his position on this team. Jaylen Moody was an individual that many had pegged as the starter next to Christian Harris before Henry To'oTo'o ultimately transferred from Tennessee to the Crimson Tide last season. Upon that transfer, To'oTo'o pretty much came in and earned that spot opposite of Christian Harris. Christian Harris and To'oTo'o had a successful season this year and tallied up a lot of tackles for the Crimson Tide defense. But going into this year, there was a question of what would Christian Harris and Henry To'oTo'o do? And if the answer to that question was they would enter the draft, well then Jaylen Moody was an individual I think a lot of Alabama fans were kind of thinking about that could move forward into that position. Though the inside linebacker room for the Crimson Tide is very loaded, there are a lot of talented inside linebackers. Jaylen Moody provides a lot of experience, having been in the system for quite some time. A three-star prospect out the class of 2018, he's someone who's grinded and who's bided his time with the Crimson Tide. And even though, and this needs to be said, and it should have been said sooner in this video, but even though someone enters their name into the transfer portal does not mean it's a foregone conclusion that they are going to leave that institution. They're just checking their options and what institutions are interested in them. And I don't doubt that Jaylen Moody is going to have suitors, especially when we look in any limited times he did play, whether that be the Arkansas game last year, or if we fast forward to the spring game this past season, almost a year ago now, which seems incredible at this point how fast time has flown. Moody was an individual who always seemed to be in the right position, and one of the things I'd talked about before with Jaylen Moody is with that inside linebacker position, you have got to know your job. I mean, it's paramount that you get everybody else lined out because you're almost the signal caller for the defense, but if you mess up, it can really just affect the entire flow of a play, and Moody was always one of those individuals that was very apparent how much he was concentrated on doing the right thing. The inside linebacker room is now going to be a very interesting situation if Jaylen Moody does indeed choose to leave the Crimson Tide, especially if Christian Harris and Henry To'oTo'o declare for the NFL draft. Because then the Crimson Tide, though fielding a very experienced inside linebacker room, may be looking at playing individuals that don't have the experience. But luckily for the Tide, there is no shortage of talent in that room. Whether we're talking about Deontay Lawson, who looked phenomenal during the spring game. I mean, he was very impressive, and many of you came on the channel and were asking if he was a upperclassman, even though he was a freshman. That's how good he looked, how sure of himself he looked. So I'm really interested in seeing him, but also incoming freshman Sean Murphy has earned a lot of rave reviews for good reason. So with this news, there's now going to be a lot of intrigue. There's now going to be a lot of eyes on the inside linebacker position, and we're going to have to keep up with it all, keep up with the news coming out around this situation, and you already know, we'll absolutely be following wherever the Jaylen Moody news takes us. So, with that, and in closing, hop down into the comments, let me know, are you surprised about this move? That's it. See ya.